you check the children. Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And you got Jaime and Fuego here.
And we are here to review a brand new release. We got to see it a few days early. It's coming out this Friday, right?
Correct. Yep, the 31st.
So we are here to talk about Companion. This was a AMC and Harkins like mystery movie thing, and
Scream Unseen.
yeah, well, Harkins it's called something else, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But yeah, so when it started, Fuego said it was probably going to be Companion. I think all over Reddit it was saying it was going to be Companion, so it was Companion. And Robert and I had just done a trailer reaction for it recently, and it was the trailer that everyone said spoiled too much of the movie. And having now watched the movie, I agree, it definitely spoiled something that could have been really good as a twist. And while I really liked the script, I would have been even more impressed with it had they done that, because knowing the twist, the entire first half hour of all these little in-jokes and dialogue and, things pointing a certain direction, like, it wasn't as clever when I knew exactly where it was headed, So it was still a really good script. I enjoyed the script. I enjoyed the movie overall. That's my overall thoughts. I thought it was a good time. But I'm frustrated by the choices that marketing campaigns continue to make regarding horror movies nowadays.
Yeah, dude, and I'm totally with you there because of the fact that this is the follow-up from writer-director Drew Hancock, who did Barbarian, which was also a movie that hinged big time on not knowing where the story was going to go. Mm-hmm. And so, it's like they didn't make that, spoiler in their marketing campaign for that previous film. So I'm really surprised that they opted to go with this, and I've seen a ton of other reviewers, like Emma Spooky Astronauts, like totally railing this movie, at least for the marketing, doing that huge reveal. But yeah, I enjoyed this, man. I mean, Sophie Thatcher is quickly becoming like a pretty serious name in horror. I mean, between Boogeyman, Yellow Jackets the first time I saw her, and she was in Heretic a few months ago, and she was great in that. So, she's very capable. She's got this like sultry Scarlett Johansson kind of voice going on, which is kind of fun. And so, yeah, I thought she was great. Jack Quaid once again playing kind of a wormier Wee Huey sort of character, a little bit different with where the story goes without really getting into too much. But yeah, man, I had fun with this. It's much more dark comedy than like horror, at least in my estimation. But I mean, the cast was great. Awesome seeing Guillermo from What We Do in the Shadows in there too. He's having a lot of fun. So yeah, I enjoyed this. I wasn't like crazy over the moon for it, but I laughed a lot and I had a lot of fun with it.
So the question becomes, do we talk about the twist or do we kind of skirt around it? I mean, the twist is revealed a half hour into the movie. Mm-hmm. So, it's an early thing. It's basically the break into Act 2. And, it's tough to talk too in depth about the movie without talking about that. So I guess let's just keep it surface level, and then towards the end we can talk about that. The idea is Jack Quaid meets this girl. They hit it off right away, and then we flash forward some time. We don't know exactly how much time to when he takes her to a gathering at a massive mansion in the woods with some friends of his, and
which is owned by Kyle Gallner, and I laughed out loud when I first saw him pop up in this movie, dude. Like the outfit, the hair, and everything. I mean, his accent, that was great.
Yeah. So he plays Sergey. Yeah. And so there's Guillermo and his significant other, and then the girl that's a friend of Jack Quaid's that is seeing Sergey. It's a small, tight-knit group, and there's lots of little barbs and things being thrown the way of Iris, who is Jack Quaid's, date and, love interest. And then at a half hour, something occurs, and there is a confrontation, I could say, between Iris and another character. And then the film starts to spin into the really dark areas that you were alluding to. So again, that's about as much as I can say without getting into the spoiled thing from the trailer. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's a simple story, but I think it worked for the film. Small group of actors and limited locations, and I think that works to the benefit of this one. So yeah, story-wise, what about you?
Yeah, man, story was simple but good. I mean, it really lived and died by just the snippiness of the dialogue and the banter amongst all of these characters. I thought was really amusing. Yeah, it's really tough because the crux of what is kind of revealed in that first 25-30 minutes or so is, well, actually not so much, I guess. So there is some backhanded stuff going on amongst some people here at this cabin. It's like, are people's associations what they seem to be? Could somebody be taking advantage of somebody else? What could somebody be hiding as far as intentions? So there is a little bit more. It reminded me in some ways, anytime it comes to a dark comedy like this, at least as far as a vibe goes, you see Sophie Thatcher in a lot of the marketing like covered in blood and stuff. So some craziness is going to go down at some particular point. It gave me very Bad Things vibes, and that's one of my favorite dark comedies, at least as far as things getting very out of hand very quickly. So I kind of got that vibe a little bit. It's one of my favorite comparisons because I love that flick. But it really does boil down to the nature of the relationship between Jack Quaid's character and Sophie Thatcher's character. That's what a lot of the second and third act really hinge upon. And is it as good as it appears to be, I guess. So, yeah.
So did you enjoy how the story played out?
Yeah. I mean, once again, I was loving it for the first like 2/3, and then by the time we got to the third act, maybe I just wanted it to get a little bit zanier, a little bit crazier, because Barbarian sure as hell did. Even though I didn't love that movie either, it still kind of went a little more off the rails than this one did. I felt like this one was a little safer than I was expecting at times, especially with how everything resolved at the end. So, yeah, but still fun. I mean, it was once again, simple story, as you had mentioned, and I felt like the strength of the dialogue and then the performance of this ensemble of people, all those that we mentioned, I thought, did a pretty bang-up job. And even the boyfriend of Guillermo's character, from What We Do in the Shadows, we just saw him in Smile too. So, I mean, pretty much everybody except for, oh boy, I forget the name of her character. we can remember everybody else. There's only one woman in this that I hadn't seen. And Kat, yes, that's right. Yeah, Kat is the only one that I hadn't seen in anything recently, at least to the best of my knowledge, because everybody else I immediately recognized from the ensemble. So,
yeah, and I thought everyone did a good job. I mean, just segueing into the acting since you brought it up here. Particularly, yeah, I'm a fan of Jack Quaid, and I like seeing him, stretch a couple of different muscles here.
He does.
Yeah, Sophie Thatcher is good. She doesn't blow me away, but she didn't, it wasn't really her character to have a supremely wide range of deliveries and things like that. So it was definitely in character. And yeah, I mean, I thought at first that it was Kyle Gallner, and then I kind of just lost him in Sergei. I was like, oh, I guess it's not him. But it's funny that you say that it was. I was like, oh, okay, it actually was then. But yeah, I mean, Guillermo did great, and I think his boyfriend did a good job too. So I thought the acting was really top notch for the film.
Yeah, man, I did too, and that was maybe with the simplicity of the story, as we had mentioned, maybe another one of the like much stronger muscles within this film was the acting in some ways. But dude, the chemistry between the guy that we just saw in Smile 2 and then Guillermo's character, it was super cute, especially the flashback to how they met and everything. You're standing on my tail, I mean, and we get a variation of that flashback at one point too, which was even funnier. So yeah, I mean, good stuff from a comedic standpoint. I thought that this really balanced the tones pretty well as far as like where the darkness of the story, veers to, and then just kind of the lighthearted levity of everything else. So, yeah.
And yeah, I thought the movie was made very well. Also, the cinematography was strong. The sound design was strong. The production design, the location was really nice. And,
gorgeous location.
And the house itself suited the, the vibe of the story. And, modern house, modern issues, modern problems, and
Yeah.
I think it was. I think all of that was very well crafted. Honestly, I like this better than Barbarian because
I did too.
I didn't like basically the back half of Barbarian, and especially the end. So I think this was definitely more satisfying, and it was fun to see how things were going to get resolved. There was, a particular moment that was really cool that, someone was told to do something that they were trying not to do. And when it ended up happening, I thought the effects of it were really, really cool. Again, dancing around things here, but
yeah, I'm trying to.
it involved a
pinpoint what
gunshot.
you're referring
It
to.
involved a gunshot.
Okay.
And it was done kind of in a slower motion. And I thought that was a really cool effect,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, not only was the film put together very well, but I think the effects were really great for the film too. So just go ahead and jump in on the filmmaking, and then we can dive a little bit more into the effects.
Yeah. I mean, when you have a gorgeous location like that, it definitely helps with everything just feeling as pristine, and because there's a glossiness to this film based on. It ties in with the subject matter of the nature of certain characters in this without spoiling stuff. So yeah, I mean, solid in that regard. I was just really happy when it came to the effects that there was a bit of gore, a kill of sorts that was paid off because they just kept foreshadowing it a couple different times during the film, and I was very, very satisfied when they finally went there. I was like, oh, they got to be saving that for the end. That's like their big payoff there. So that was cool. Yeah, I mean, not quite as bloody or crazy. I mean, we didn't have insane makeup work like the deformed whatever in Barbarian that we had. So it didn't really go quite as crazy. It was a little more restrained compared to that film, and maybe even a little more focused, I think. It didn't get quite as convoluted as Barbarian did in that second and third half. So.
Yeah, agreed. And so, yeah, I think the effects, there was definitely some digital stuff, but definitely some practical stuff as well. So I think they found a great balance of the two. And yeah, so I think the film, again, before getting into the twist part of it, I think that's kind of as far as we could go, but I think it was really strong. And I think if you don't want to know the twist, if you've managed to avoid it up until now, then yeah, I mean, finish the review here and go check it out for yourself this weekend, and don't watch anything else about it, because I guarantee other people are just going to talk about it right out of the gate. So
yeah, and yet I've seen other people like Lee from Drum Dum saying, I'm not going to spoil anything in case you haven't seen it, because that's the best way to go into this movie, is not knowing that twist, the nature of certain characters.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
So there you go, guys. That's where we'll leave it as far as the non-spoilery stuff goes. So yeah, we'll give you a couple seconds to cut out here, and anyone that's curious, that knows what's coming, we'll dive a little bit more into that. And so yeah, 3, 2, 1, we're in spoiler territory. And basically what's revealed at so essentially the setup that I explained is the deal, and there's some shade from Kat towards Iris, and she even asks her at one point, why don't you like me? And she basically responds honestly, like, it's because you make me feel replaceable. And I was like, okay. And then all of the things leading up in the first half hour, the good dialogue stuff, like there's visual clues. Like, for instance, when his name is Josh, so I'm going to call him Josh and Iris. So when Josh and Iris first arrive, he's carrying one bag over his shoulder, and she's carrying 2 big suitcases. And like, I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, she's got the strength. And
she's a tiny little thing.
Yeah, she's a tiny little thing. His nickname for her is Beat Boop.
Yeah.
And so like, okay, what's the deal here? And essentially, when she gets attacked by Sergei, who basically says, oh, Kat gave me permission, I just want to see what this is like. He tries to force himself on her, and she ends up stabbing him in the neck with a knife that she finds in her pocket. And he dies, and he bleeds all over her, which is that shot that Fuego talked about in the trailer, covered in blood. And when she comes back in, everyone sees. She tries to explain what happened, but as she starts to freak out, Josh just says, Iris, go to sleep. And she like immediately powers down, and her eyes glaze over white, and she stops. And so she's a robot. It turns out that she is essentially an advanced sex robot that
Love bots.
yeah, a love bot, exactly. And it's interesting, right? So they have to figure out what to do, and then it's revealed that Sergei actually had a bunch of money, and so this was actually the plan of a couple of the characters. I don't want to spoil too much, but I just want to at least talk about the robot aspect, and there's even a further reveal later that we won't have to spoil here. But this
because that I did not expect.
I thought that was fun too. Yeah, I was like, okay, cool. And then the way they took that, I thought went interestingly. So yeah, that by itself was enough to propel the other, the remaining 2/3 of the film, and it was very interesting as a result, because she starts to become more and more aware of the situation and what's happened, and turns out their meet cute may not have been as real as she was thinking and stuff like this. So so that's the reveal of the film, and that's where the twist, really makes it an interesting sit through.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to figure out how she was able to do this, because it is stated earlier in the film that these sort of creations, these robots aren't supposed to be aggressive. They're supposed to be actually built and programmed not to be able to do that. So that's something I don't want to spoil too much or jump too much into, but there is a reason.
Here's the problem: she's set to evil.
Yeah. Oh man, Simpsons?
Yeah.
Where he flips it back, the little crusty doll.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But it's interesting that I've seen lots of people say that this is a commentary on kind of the whole entitled tech bro sort of thing, and it does intriguingly explore some of those, but it's not the nature of every single person who uses one of those things, as we find out from a dynamic of a couple other characters without getting into spoiling things. And I thought that was really cute and endearing, and so that was good stuff. But yeah, as we see the issues with the Iris and Josh characters, and how it's very one-sided and lack of appreciation, as you would expect with that sort of robot to guy who purchased or leased robot, which is one of the funnier jokes. And he's like, I don't even own you. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of humor in the second and third act after we find out the nature of Sophie Thatcher's Iris and certain other stuff. And are you sex robot shaming me? I mean, there's a lot of really funny dialogue in this once we get all of those kind of pieces lined up for us as viewers. So
yeah, and I will say, just as kind of my final piece on this is, this is becoming sort of a subgenre now between Megan, the upcoming Megan 2.0, and Subservience.
And there was the Megan Fox movie, right?
Subservience.
Because I didn't watch
this
that.
is the best one of them all. I've seen them all, and this is the best one of that ilk. So if you like that kind of film, then you're definitely going to want to watch this one, because I think it's the most complete, singular story that was the most entertaining of those three, for sure.
Yeah, and the tone really worked for me in this, man. I mean, besides solid performances, like, I laughed a lot more than I was expecting to. I mean, it's not like full-on romantic comedy, as they're jokingly saying in some of the advertising. They're like, from the studio that brought you the Notebook, and you're like, that's funny, because it's not going to be to that degree. It's going to veer off into some craziness. So yeah, this was a lot of fun, and I would totally recommend it.
Absolutely, same here. So that's going to do it for our review of Companion, you guys. If you've watched this far, thank you very much for watching. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias a Jaime Fuego.
And until next time, stay scared.
Stay scared.